Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video we have another installment in the series I call the worst tanks to play in World of Tanks console, and today's tank is a Cold War tank. It's the first Cold War contender in the worst tanks to play series, and it is the PT-76, which is an Eastern Alliance light tank in Era 1, and I'll just run down why I think it's absolutely crap, and then we'll have a look at the three gameplays I have for you. And the first gameplay you'll see is me on vineyards in the background, where I go to my location on the 6 line and try and spot out, and you'll see with the other replays that I just try and play the scout role with this tank, and damage comes as a sort of second. It's not a very good damage dealing tank in my opinion, and it's better at a sort of passive and active scouting. But yeah, we'll get onto that in just a bit. So I'll just run down the statistics of the tank. So fully upgraded, you get 505 meters view range, which is okay, and 1650 hit points, which again is okay. That's nothing to complain about. But then you come on to the gun, and you kind of have two options with this tank. You have a 76mm gun, which is the stock gun, and a 57mm gun, which is the gun that you'll grind towards. And I use the 76mm gun because it has better penetration than the upgraded gun. It has worse DPM, but it has nice heat rounds. Well, I say nice, it has okay heat rounds that have a lot of penetration at 280. So the 76mm gun that I use has 15.79 rounds a minute. It has 150 alpha damage on its standard APCR and its heat rounds, and 250 alpha damage on its HE rounds, and I just carry the APCR and a lot of heat with this. So the standard penetration on this gun, on the 76mm for the APCR, is 175, which is pretty low, and I guess it's comparable to the M24 Chaffee, but it also has a lot of aspects that make it pretty horrific as well. It has 280mm of penetration on the heat rounds, which, you know, that's definitely very good, but it's got a slow shell velocity, and, you know, not everyone can afford to fire, you know, heat rounds as a kind of standard ammunition choice. But you know, it's just one of those things. I just find that it just doesn't work, and the other aspects of the tank are absolutely horrific. The gun, it's not the worst aspect, but it's still not brilliant. The penetration on the HE, by the way, is 95mm, and I just wouldn't recommend carrying any of them. So you get a 3.8 second base reload with this gun, a 2 second aim time, which is okay, 0.36 accuracy, which is pretty, yeah, it's pretty bad. And then you come on to one of the worst things about this tank, and that's the gun depression. It's 4 degrees, which is absolutely awful, and it makes it horrific to play on ridgelines. It has 30 degrees of elevation, which is okay, and it does carry a substantial amount of rounds at 80. So yeah, the DPM with a 76mm is 2.3k, and the DPM with the 57mm is 3.3k, but you'll be lucky to penetrate, you know, even half of your shots with the 57mm in my opinion, so you might as well just go with the 76mm. And then you come on to the mobility, which is another downside to this tank. It's only got a 300 horsepower engine with a 19.3 base horsepower to ton ratio. It goes 58 kilometers an hour forwards and 22 backwards. So the reverse speed is okay, but the forward speed isn't as good as the Western Alliance light tanks, and the power to weight ratio isn't as good as the Western Alliance light tanks, and yeah, it just feels really slow. The turret traverse is slow at 36 degrees a second for a light tank, but the whole traverse is okay at 40 degrees a second. And we'll just watch the end of this game, and then in the second gameplay I will go through my commander and equipment setup, and then I'll talk about, you know, why I just feel like it's one of the worst tanks in Cold War, if not the worst tank in Cold War that I've played so far, personally anyway. So in that game we finish in 3rd place. We pick up 1300 direct damage, 1600 assistance, 1 kill, 1100 base experience points and make a little bit of silver. But that's it for that replay. That's a kind of standard kind of gameplay I've been having, so nothing spectacular, but trying to help my team out with my sort of assistance damage as much as possible. So we're going to hop into the next replay and I'll see you there. So we're now on to the second replay here on Desfall, and I'll just talk you through my equipment and commander setup. So equipment wise, I run advanced concealment, advanced optics and traction system. The traction system just to help the mobility a little bit more and try and keep up with the Western Alliance light tanks, and try and play my scout role as best as possible. And advanced concealment and optics, because I play this mainly as a scout, as I said in the first gameplay. I don't try and make this like a damage dealing tank, I just try and assist my team by spotting the enemies and getting as much out of the tank as possible in that regard. So I try and outspot my opponents. I know it has true vision in Cold War, but if you stay hidden, and not everyone sort of is as aware as some of the best players, so you have an opportunity to get nice assistance, nice XP by playing that spotting role. So commander wise, I run 6th Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, Green Thumb, and I also have Silent Driving. Now, you shouldn't run Silent Driving because it's ineffective on light tanks, but I also use this crew on other Eastern Alliance subs, medium tanks and heavy tanks sometimes. It's just a crew that I had that I put into this tank because it best suited my needs at the time, and I didn't have the gold at the time to respec the crew, and I've kind of just kept it. But instead of the Silent Drive-In, I'd recommend you use Rapid Aim, just to help the gun handling that little bit more. So now with my commander and equipment setup, I have 579 meters view range and a camo rating of 177 meters, which that's the best thing about this tank, is the camo rating and the camo rating to view range ratio. You're able to get some nice assistance that way if you try and stay hidden and they can't see you using the true vision system. And I now also have a DPM of 2,745, which isn't horrific, but it's by no means the best. And I just find that the Western Alliance light tanks in Era 1 just seem to work better, but it isn't the worst grind in terms of length of time. It's just not very fun. You find yourself struggling with the gun depression, and I found that the best way to use this tank was to just try and play this sort of sneaky scout role. It does really well passive scouting. You can active scout, but you do have to bear in mind that your mobility isn't as good as some of the other tanks, and you will be caught up to and taken out if you're out of position. So I try and play the kind of passive role, as you're seeing me here doing in D4 on Desfall. I'm just trying to spot out these Centurions. I did move them because I thought that I would get spotted as I fired, but as you can see, that's where the camo rating holds up. Unfortunately, the line of tanks behind me obviously aren't in a position to shoot what I'm spotting at the moment, or they're just not doing it. So I'm pinging here, and I'm not pinging in anger. I know it can be frustrating for people if people ping constantly, but I'm just trying to get them to see that I'm spotting and to maybe try and reposition. But of course, not everyone sort of thinks like that, and not everyone's as experienced maybe as me as other players, so I can't be too angry, and I got myself into a little bit of a bad situation there where it took me a while to get out. You can see the whole traverse here is slightly kind of, it turns like a boat. The terrain resistances aren't that great either. It's just not that mobile for a light tank, and this horrible 4 degrees of gun depression means it's kind of really annoying. But I'm just going to duck back down into these rocks here, and I'm just going to keep peeking out and trying to spot these tanks that are coming over to the north of this map. I've got these Centurions spotted, but it looks like one of the mediums of the TDs to the right of me was spotting that Centurion, so I missed out on a nice 700 assistance. But we have picked up 1200 already and 400 of our own. So now we're so close to this Centurion too, and he hasn't spotted us. He must have a bad crew. It's 146 meters just showing you what this Cameroon is capable of. But unfortunately, as soon as we fire, obviously we will get spotted, and people just aren't shooting the Centurion 2. One shot goes in, but just to the tracks, and this poor guy doesn't seem quite aware. But there we go, the TD gets a lovely shot in, and we pick up a nice juicy bit of assistance, taking it to 1600 assistance and 600 damage. And the first two replays are kind of very average games in terms of what you could achieve in Era 1 with light tanks, but in terms of this tank, it's actually not too bad of a result. And the final game in this video is, I'd say it's kind of an epic game for this tank. I don't see a lot of these tanks on the battlefield, so obviously people don't play it for fun. They play it just to grind through and get to the BMP 1 and 2, and that's obviously where the fun's at with those little automatic guns and ATGMs and so on and so forth. So I'm just enhancing my combat rations there, just trying to get some extra view range out, and I'm going to circle around now and try and spot this T-95E3 from a different location. I think he recognises that I was there, so I'm just going to come from a different location and see if I can spot some more things camping on these I think it's like train tracks to the west of this map. So we try and get a shot there into the T-95E3 is what I should have said. T-95E3, just trying to get a little bit of damage as well as spotting now. And the shell velocity can be quite annoying, and as you can see there, the bloom on the reticle there when you're moving is quite bad. So it's not got great gun handling. The DPM's okay, the camera rating's nice, but the mobility sucks, the gun depression sucks, and the penetration isn't that great as well. So I'm just going to let this T-95E3 give me his side, and when he's distracted, I'm going to go in and try and get in behind him and get some shots in, and work with my medium and tank destroyer that are to my right. So I'm now going to go in behind this T-95E3. Still got the APCR loaded. The sides and the rear, I shouldn't really need it. I'm aware that there's a tank to my left, but I'm not getting a shot, I'm not targeted, so I'm going to take this opportunity to try and get as many shots as I can into this T-95E3. Unfortunately, it looked like he was turning, so I tried to evade. And I'm trying to sort of use this ridgeline now to get gun depression, because I wouldn't if I went forwards. And I'm just going to sit here and pound round after round into this T-95E3 from behind. And this is the best sort of thing you can do, is to try and spot out early doors, save your hit points for the end of the battle, then go in, use your camo rating to sort of outmaneuver and outflank your opponents. And now I'm just staying within a distance now, dig proximity spot this Centurion. He looks like he's not going to turn around for me, so I'm going to drop down and get shots into him from behind. And as you can see, the gun depression, I almost there nearly hit the top of the turret and bounced. But this Centurion 5-1 isn't turning his turret and tank at the same time. And I am just going to juke him there and get a final shot in, and the M46A1 finishes him off. That light tank gets finished off, and now it's just 2 tanks left on the enemy team. And I did notice that they were towards my base, so I'm going to try and head on back that way. As you can see, it does take a little while to sort of get up to speed, and it doesn't turn fantastically well. The power to weight ratio isn't the best, but these light tanks have come to us, which is fortunate for me. And this turret traverse is causing me a bit of issues here. I shouldn't be auto aiming, I should just be free aiming. But we do get a nice shot in there nonetheless, and that tank's now going to be a one shot after we put our second shell in. So now the tank's coming up behind me, and I'm going to focus on him. They're both 1 or 2 shots, and I feel confident now that I'm going to be able to take this one down. I switched to free aiming, what I should have done in the first place, and there you go. That is the perfect example of why you should free aim your shots if someone's circling you. Do not auto aim, especially if you don't have great shell velocity. And we get a nice shell there, leading that on the M41 Walker Bulldog there, taking that game down. So we actually finish an MVP in that game with 2.2k direct damage, 1600 assistance, make just shy of 40,000 silver, 1400 base experience points, 2.2k direct damage, 1600 assistance, and that's a really nice game for this tank. And as you can see, this is when I was, I think, yeah, just going towards the BMP 1. So we're going to head on into the final battle, which is a really nice result for this tank, so I'll see you there shortly. So we're now into the third and final replay of the video, and we're back on Desval, and this is the best battle that I've had in the PT-76. It took me a lot of work to sort of figure out how best to play this tank to get the most out of it, and that's basically, as I've said in the last two replays, just using your camera rating, spotting out and then getting damage as and when. But your main role in this tank, I feel, is to spot out the enemy tanks. I don't feel like you can go toe to toe with anything in this era in terms of sort of firepower, so you are just a support tank and a scout tank first and foremost. So we're going to head up to the sort of middle of this map as I often do. I didn't do it in the last replay, but I'm now going to go up here and try and spot out the, towards the north and towards the west of this map. I'm hoping that it isn't too hotly contested up here, because if it is, I'm going to have to duck down. But I'm going to try and spot out now towards the south, see what I can get out of this battle assistance wise. Usually you'll spot tanks crossing there where I was just aiming. Nothing's spotted there at the moment, but I'm just scanning the horizon with the true vision system, seeing what I can spot out. I enhanced my combat rations there just because I want to get that extra little bit of view range, see what I can spot. Going to poke round now, spot that M46A1, hoping that someone shoots him, and I'm just going to keep changing position, so if someone does spot me sort of poking up here with the true vision, that they won't find me. And we get a nice shot there on that medium tank on the move, crossing over towards the north of the map. And I'm just going to try and play it safe. I could have carried on sat there firing away, but someone might have spotted my shell tracer, and I don't have any armour and I need my hit points for later in the battle, but I sort of couldn't pass up the opportunity to shoot this M46A1. Our first shot, when we actually aim it, doesn't penetrate. The one where we auto aim does, but that's just World of Tanks in a nutshell. And yeah, we're up to 222 direct damage and 98 assistance, but this game does get a lot better as it goes on. So I'm going to just continue to sit in this location and try and spot out, and I think this tank maybe can be quite boring to play in some maps because you feel like you're kind of powerless to try and push the tempo in, and play those aggressive plays that I personally like to play. I don't feel like you can get out of trouble as quickly as something like a Walker Bulldog or M24 Chaffee because of the power to weight ratio. You can't use a lot of locations because of the gun depression. It takes a bit slow getting off the mark, and the shell velocity isn't brilliant. The DPM is okay, but it's nothing, nothing that you can do about when someone sort of all into you with a tank that's got better armour, better gun depression, better DPM, better penetration, and yeah, it can be quite tough to play. It's quite a challenge, but having said that, it isn't the biggest grind in the world. And I'm sure you'll get through it, and the BMPs don't look the most competitive, but they look kind of fun with the crazy guns and the ATGMs, especially on the BMP 2 and 3, so hopefully I'll get to there soon. So I'm just going to advance a little bit here, just advancing from ridgeline to ridgeline. I'm going to use the foliage here to try and stay hidden and spot this NM116, and hopefully people are going to get shots into him from above me, the light tank above me, and maybe the medium tank will come round from the right of me and get shots in. And as you can see, we're picking up drips and drabs of assistance damage here. I'm just going to keep poking back up. I managed to spot another medium tank in the distance there. Just going to keep poking up here. I'm trying not to give my my position away, but I am going to just see if I can get away with firing a shot. We get spotted, so I duck back down into cover. Unfortunately there you saw the bad penetration. We didn't penetrate the turret of that NM116, and now I'm just going to push up a little bit more, go up from ridgeline to ridgeline. Well, unfortunately we get spotted there as the NM116 crosses, but just going to back out of cover, and I was worried that he was coming for me, so I'm just turning to face him so that I can get the full 4 degrees of gun depression down on him. But it looks like he wasn't coming after me after all, and we're continuing to pick up the assistance damage. And this tank works like this because I have a 9-skill commander. I guess if you don't have a 9-skill commander, this is going to be even more painful of a grind, but I recommend you get your 6th sense Born Leader, and then you choose to sort of enhance your view range and your camo, and then work on maybe the gun handling skills next if you're looking to grind a crew with this tank. So now that this TD is preoccupied, I'm going to come up behind, put a shot in. Luckily we set him on fire and we get the kill, and I'm just wiggling. As you can see, it's quite slow here just to get over this ridgeline so we don't get shot, and we managed to make it with all of our 1650 hit points intact. And now I'm going to flank around, come down this 1 and 2 line and just spot out these tanks for my friendlies. And as you can see, we're starting to rack up the assistance now, and this is what I wanted. I think they know I'm here. I'm pretty sure this M46 A1's coming after me, but I'm just trying to bait him around this rock because I know I have people looking this way. And when he gets to me, he actually decides, you know, hey, I'm not going to actually shoot him after all, and he just drives straight on, and I get all the lovely assistance for that. So now we've got this Centurion 5-1 coming from the right of me. I'm still getting assistance from spotting up to the sort of D1 location, and I'm just going to move up, relight that M46P1, who gets shut down by our Centurion 5-1, and now I'm just going to get the high ground on this Centurion 5-1, and there's this T-44 who wasn't paying any attention to me. Now he is. This Centurion 5-1's coming after me, and I'm just going to try and use my my mobility to try and circle him, but as you can see, he doesn't actually have a problem getting his gun round on me. It's just the fact that I think he might have been in the room in there. But we're going to get shot after shot onto his side, and our friendlies are helping me out, and this is why it's so important to keep your hit points for later in the battle. We get a shot there, which is annoying that it went up into the air. That's purely because of the gun depression, and I hit a ridge. I'm firing the heat rounds here just because I want to guarantee some more penetrations, because I sense this is probably the best gun I'm ever going to have in this tank. Because once I've done this video, I probably won't go back unless I try and 3-mark it, because I'm some kind of masochist or something. But this T-54 really isn't paying attention to me, and I'm just going to sit here and get shot after shot. I'm firing heat, but at this distance, firing where I was, I shouldn't have no problems penetrating. I was trying to get tracking, but it doesn't really matter. We set him on fire. I'm just going to try and bait a shot into the rocks, but no need. And we finished off the T-54 and have a really nice result in this tank. It's a victory. We finish in 2nd place, 2.4k direct damage, 4,000 assistance. We get the mastery badge. 1537 base experience. We get 2 kills, and that's the best game that I've had in this tank. But I don't recommend this tank. Obviously you've got to grind through it, but I don't recommend playing it for fun. I don't think it's a very good tank, and that's why it's featured in this series. So yeah, let me know what you think about this tank. Maybe you enjoy it, and we will leave that video there. So I hope you're all having a great day. Until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.